Welcome back to Unfiltered Unspoken podcast. I seen the smile on your face.
Yes. Oh, I'm impressed. Look at that. I love the graphics. Great job.
Thank you. Thank you. It's Vitelle.
Yes.
Okay, I said it right. We want to welcome Vitelle to
I
Unfiltered.
tend to learn, it's really just a matter of what your accent is, okay? But
Yeah, because it could go either way, right?
the
I want to say it right. We want to welcome Vitelle to Unfiltered Unspoken podcast. As we told you, we're going to continue to share life experiences. And we love when we have folks on the scene that is just 100% transparent about their life experience. And 99.9% of the folks that come through here are, because everyone is at a different level in their life. But we're super excited to have Vitelle. She's going to tell you a little bit about herself. And then we're going to have Sid kick off the first question. But on this one, before Sid kicks off the first question, I want to play a short video in the beginning. Vitelle, if you can come up, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much for that amazing introduction. The graphics are on point, top tier. I love the way y'all roll. So my name is Vitelle, everybody. I am an actress, director, producer, model. I do a little bit of everything in the entertainment industry, but I am the founder and CEO of Us Three Productions. I am currently on a world tour at the moment. I'm coming to you guys live from Nashville, Tennessee, where we are currently getting ready for our next show coming up this weekend called 9 Lives World Tour. It is a one-woman show about healing from trauma. That's what I do. I tell my own testimony in order to help people to heal. And I do that through the arts and entertainment. So that's just a little bit about me, but we'll get into more in this interview. Thanks for tuning in, and thank you for having me on your show.
Absolutely. Thank you. Let me run this clip real quick, and then we're going to run one more at the end because you're doing something amazing. So give me 1 second.
Awesome.
Oops. Oops, hold on 1 second, y'all.
No worries.
Back and better than ever. Us Three Productions proudly presents the highly anticipated 2025 World Tour of 9 Lives, the one-woman show, starring award-winning actress, author, and humanitarian Vitelle. This is more than just a performance. 9 Lives have become a platform for change, helping communities confront difficult conversations around issues such as depression, suicide, divorce, homelessness, and human trafficking. With each stop on the tour, Us Three Productions will partner with local organizations and support networks to offer resources for individuals seeking healing and recovery, with special guest performances by Atlanta's Garrett Patterson and Carolyn Jones. It all kicks off January the 11th in Orlando. Then it's off to Birmingham, Raleigh, Atlanta, DC, Houston, Nashville, Boston, Bowling Green, Kentucky, and coming soon to a city near you. You do not want to miss it. Text 770-626-5075 for updates, casting calls, discounts, and more. 770-626-5075 or email heisus3productions@gmail.com for sponsor and vendor opportunity. The 9 Lives World Tour. Be there.
Yes. Every time I see it, I get excited again. It's really happening.
Well, thank you again for being here with us. As we like to do with everyone, we kind of like to start at the beginning of your journey. Tell us a little bit about, your time growing up, your home structure. What was your family like, the relationships within your family, and if you experienced any trauma in your adolescent years.
Absolutely. I will try to sum it up and be as brief as possible. We start from the beginning. So I came out the womb with talent. And I was like, let me see. So I grew up with my 2 sisters, hence why my production company is called Us Three Productions. That is one of the reasons there. So my 2 sisters and my mother raised us. I was raised in a very militant household. My mother is Black. my father, I didn't realize at first, I don't think, is white. And so I actually, at one point in my life as a child, really was convinced that Michael Jackson was my dad. So don't judge me. Okay, this is raw and unfiltered. We gonna keep it real. But I was not surprised because the curly hair and the light skin, and it explained a lot to me at the time because, as a child, I couldn't really understand why am I so much different looking than everybody else who was all caramel complected or dark skinned in my family. So that just made perfect sense to me. And the reason I didn't see him all the time is because he's always on tour doing his music. So that's what I thought at first. But then lo and behold, I later found out that I was part Caucasian biologically. Now, it doesn't say that on my birth certificate, and I still don't really claim that, but it is what it is. Genetics is genetics. Okay. But now I look at it like a blessing because the way that I am now, the way that I look, I would say, I guess the genetics, the genes that I got from both sides, like it's just so necessary. And the fact that God really understood and created us with exactly whose DNA we're supposed to have for us to be who we're supposed to be. I get that now, and I'm so excited to be who I am now. But at the time as a child, I did not accept that. I did not receive it. I have a poem that I perform that is very well known called The Skin I'm In. It's been performed throughout the world for a very long time. And I wrote that when I was younger, when I literally said in the poem, I just can't accept the skin that I'm in. So that was one of the, I guess, original traumas, you could say. One of the things that I remember going through the most as a child was just not being able to accept my own self, just having that lack of confidence, experiencing a lot of bullying because of how I looked and being treated like, oh, you think you're better than everybody else because you're light skinned, you have curly hair and all this different stuff, or long hair or whatever. So I experienced a lot of that growing up, and not only from school and from outside the household, but even within my household, unknowingly to them, I was taking every little thing personally. Any comment about, that must be the white side or anything, like it built up over time. So that was like my first, I guess, original traumas. I went through a lot more growing up on top of that, but that's like, they say that mental abuse is worse than physical abuse. And I can attest to that because I have experienced both. And it's the mental part that stuck with me the longest. And so that is the hardest thing to heal from, I would say. So that's just a little bit of background about my childhood, my upbringing. I have come a long way. Here I am now, but that's just a little summary for you guys.
I'm sorry, it's my go.
No, you're not.
I apologize. So I wanted to jump right into it because we have a lot of kids biracial that are bullied. All kids get bullied, but I hear commonly a lot of biracial kids are bullied. So can you talk a little bit more about the bullying at a young age, from being bullied in school and at home?
Okay, so you want me to elaborate a little bit on that? Yeah. To hear you say that it's common now it's unusual to me, because you would think we've come a long way now. There's a whole lot more mixed kids than there ever was. There's really a whole lot more biracial families altogether. And I think that it's not as much of a problem when the parents stay together and they're just a happy family unit. Then it doesn't seem as unusual. The child isn't forced to hate one side or the other, or love one side most, or pick a side or claim a side. Those kind of things you don't see as often anymore, but they definitely still happen, especially when the parents separate. So, or not getting along, or put the kids in a position to have to pick a side. So that is definitely something that you see, and something that causes just more damage than because it's hard to develop a sense of self and self-love and just the confidence that you need to accomplish anything in life if you're constantly made to feel bad for who you are and what you look like. And I think a lot of us can say that, mixed or not. I hear all the time people getting bullied for being dark skinned, for being light skinned. And it's amazing to me when I do this performance of The Skin I'm In, I'm thinking if there's no mixed or light-skinned people in the room, nobody's going to understand. But it's crazy how many people come up after and like can relate to it, whether they're mixed or not. Like, you know, I get Indian, Spanish, everybody's relating to it because so many people are uncomfortable in their skin and don't grow up in home environments that just encourage loving who you are and the way God created you. Like that is so important. And so that's why I say not just for mixed children or not just even for, you know, the complexion of your skin, but like just raising your kids to understand that everything about how they were designed is so important. And so it's such an intricate detail that God thought about before they were even created. So to get them to understand that concept and just love themselves from the very beginning, you know, you're creating a whole different human being for the future. But, you know, I didn't experience that. So, you know, I had to learn that as an adult. I had to work through those things and learning to accept and not only accept and love myself, but to get excited about the fact that I am who I am. You know how many roles I can play, girl? Like, this is good. Like, you know, just to look at the bright side of it. And so, you know, it just took me a long time to get there because I had to get there on my own and through, you know, professional services and therapy and not with the upbringing that I try my best to encourage now for other people, for my own next generation, my own children, you know, just the importance of that. So yeah, it's just so important that we think about these things as parents to try to prevent these types of things from happening. So
what were the circumstances, I guess, around your parents' relationship? You know, was it kind of like true love, whirlwind love, toxicity? You know, how did that come about?
Right. So I didn't know my dad at first, and or my bio. I didn't know him at first, but I guess later on in life, as I was processing the healing and I started asking questions and trying to get to know and hear everybody's points of view and sides of the story. And it's just very interesting how so many different sides of the story are so different. I think when I was growing up, I thought that this was just like a revenge pregnancy, like because my grandfather was a Black Panther, and he did not like white people. So this unfiltered, unspoken, right? Okay, so I'm just checking.
You can say whatever you want.
Okay, I'm trying to be politically correct and stuff, but yeah, he was a Black Panther, and so he, you know, so I was under the impression for a while that, you know, my mom just created me to spite my grandfather because he was mad. And then, like I said, at one point I thought Michael Jackson was my dad. So like there was so many mixed stories growing up that I believed every one of them at the time that I believed them. Until, you know, I found out the truth later. So again, just asking questions from my grandparents and people that were there, you know, because I don't know besides the people that were there. So it seems as though it was a whirlwind romance for a moment there in college. But, you know, and so even speaking to my dad's side of the family, I do have communication with them now. And so just learning more about them helped me heal as well. And, you know, seeing that, you know what, I think he's still in love with her, you know, like seeing that for myself and being like, okay, so it wasn't all like completely unplanned or whatever. So, you know, I may never know the full details of the entire story, but that's just from my perspective, the things that I learned over time and just trying to dig and dive into it and find out myself. Cause I mean, I wanted to know that question too, what you just asked me. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. I want to ask real quick, can you explain some of the verbal abuse from being bullied as a child and how did you cope with it? Because we do want to help folks that are going through bullying still a child. Some people haven't even reached the point to even try to navigate through it.
Right, exactly. Yeah, I still remember all the names. You know, it was very triggering. You know, I was called Casper anytime. You know, I was called Casper. I was called Rudolph anytime it was cold outside and my nose turned red. And, you know, so those kinds of different name calling, you know, kids are going to be kids. And at the time, I didn't really know how to handle it. So you asked, how did I cope with it? I think I just internalized a lot and I just started hating people. And I specifically hated white people, not necessarily for the reasons that those before me hated them, but because they hate me. And so like I experienced it from both sides. I experienced a culture shock at one point because I went from like an all black school where there's like one white person in the whole school, and I wasn't white and nobody saw me as that, but they did see me as somebody who had I had a benefit over them because I was lighter than them or something. So there was the ones who just fully accepted me, and they'll argue for me and speak for me to say, no, she's black, just get it right, and they'll correct other people before I say something and get mad, because they knew that was going to be a trigger for me if someone was confused about that. So more than the name calling and things like that, I probably got more often like, what are you? Like, just the confusion. And I didn't, now I understand, like, oh, that's just ignorance, I'm going to ignore that. But then it pissed me off. So I was like, I would react to that, and not in a great way, between fighting and, physically fighting and, threatening people and just being violent and things like that. I was not reacting very well to it. And so when I went from that school, which was actually more comfortable for me, besides the few people that were still ignorant, I went to a majority white school where there was 4 people that graduated in my class with me that were black, not including me. So 4 additional people. So, actually, I think it might have been 4 total, 3 other people, but either way, that's a small amount if you can count them on one hand. Okay. So that's what it was like going to that school. And at that school, I experienced straight up racism. I was called the N-word. I was like, these white people don't care how much black you got in you, you are black. So it was a completely different environment and set up there. So that's what made me hate them even more. And I became very violent and, dare I say, homicidal and all of those things, and ended up having to go into a facility to help me with that. And I chose to stay in that facility to stay the hell away from all the people that I did not like. So yeah, it was rough. I didn't figure out as a child or even as a teenager how to cope with it, aside from writing The Skin I'm In, which I mentioned in The Skin I'm In, that I don't hate them because they're white. They just keep reminding me, because it was mostly the white people that I experienced the racism with, and they were constantly reminding me that I looked more like them and they don't like me, So before that, I didn't experience it as much, I would say. So I learned how to cope through the poetry and writing and things like that, because I went to a facility that taught me how to do those things and to control my temper and stuff like that. So yeah.
What exactly, if any, were you taught by the family that raised you? I know it was your family, but about, just being proud of who you are, or, getting it off your shoulders, or disregarding what they're saying. Was there any kind of guidance in that, in that way, knowing, with your mom knowing that, clearly are a mixed race child? Like, did, she instill any, kind of like safety measures in you, or confidence, or, anything to help you disregard what the chatter?
Not at all. Yeah, I don't remember experiencing any of that would help me deal with that. I think the one thing that comes to mind with me, if anything, it might have made it a little worse with the violent side of me. But I remember her telling people, like when I was getting picked on too bad, like she would come to the school, black mamas. So she would come to the school and she would be like, now look, I'm trying to warn y'all don't let the light skin fool you. You're going to back her into a corner and she's going to snap on y'all. Because I would let it build up so long. Like, I wouldn't say anything. I let people poke until bam, I'm snapping. I'm taking everybody out. So, she knew that about me, that rage that run through that bloodline. And so she would tell people that. And so for me at that time, it was almost like my mom standing up for me. Like, it felt like, oh, this feels good. Like, she's standing up for me. She's letting these people know. Like, I love when my mama came up to the school, unlike most of us, so that's the main thing I remember. Like, and that probably, like, the reason it felt so good to me looking back on it and knowing the things that I know now, mental health wise, like, I understand that the reason that did feel so good to me is because that was one of the few times that I do remember her standing up for me and taking my side, and that gave me confidence, that gave me that confidence feeling that you're describing, because I didn't get that any other way. So yeah.
And I want to ask, because you also mentioned that You had issues at school and issues at home. So as a child that's frustrated in school and wants to blow up, why were you frustrated at home? And did that add to the buildup?
Like I said, I think at home it wasn't so much intentional as it was just the realization for me that clearly I don't fit in. Like I went through trying to figure out, am I adopted? Like trying to, all these different things, and just the feeling of nobody really understands what I'm going through and what I'm feeling right now and why I feel so rejected and unloved and all of these things that I experienced feeling. So in hindsight, I know it wasn't because my family did not love me. It was just what I was perceiving because of who I am and how I'm treated at school. And then I come home and it's like, I see what I see. I am different. So if comments came up, it could be like a simple comment that you just don't even think like, she must get that from the white side or something like that. Then it's like triggering, like, oh gosh, they just reminded me I'm half white. Now I'm going through this whole spiral out of emotions going on in my head. Like they don't love me, which is the conclusion that I would come to, So yeah, so that's kind of what it was like at home, I would say. And so I coped there by hiding in the closet. I actually, I had a lot of coping mechanisms at home, but one of them, I literally made my bedroom in the closet. I would stay inside the closet, shared a room with my sisters at one point, and my room was in the closet. So I had my own space and could just lock everyone out and not have to exist with everyone else. That was the one time. I think that's probably what made me an introvert. I don't know if it's natural or not, but just to be in existence in my own space and not have anyone else intruding in it or have to be competing with anyone else or lowering my self-worth for anybody else or any of those things. It just was about me in that moment. It didn't matter what color I was. So I spent a lot of time in the closet. And I'm trying to think of what else some of the things that I did. So when I remember when I was in the closet at one point, I cut myself. At one point as a teenager, I started cutting. So that is something that I did to cope, and I highly do not recommend that. Don't do that, people, because you could cut too deep, and we don't want that to happen. So, but that is unfortunately something that I did experience and can relate to, just that feeling of, and I don't think I necessarily wanted to off myself at that time. I just wanted to feel something different than the pain that I was feeling. So that was something that I resorted to for a period of time in my life as well.
Tell us a little bit about your time at the facility. Was it an issue of where you feel whatever you did to get you there was actually, that was the warranted punishment, or was it, the quintessential case of, kind of over exaggerating, Black women's rage or Black girls' rage? It was kind of the situation that put you there.
Well, I chuckled when you said that because y'all, your girl is crazy for real. Like, listen, looking back on it, I know this is so wrong. I should not have done this. So it was warranted for me to be there. But it's just kind of funny now in hindsight because like, that's a shame, girl. Why'd you do that? So basically, gosh, this is unfiltered. I feel like behind the scenes TikTok gonna cut me off because I'm gonna say too much, but it's okay. We go as long as y'all are okay with unfiltered. I don't want y'all YouTube video to get banned.
We are unfiltered, unspoken. We want you to tell it how you gonna tell it.
So I got arrested because I actually made this whole plan. Now, y'all know I've been an actor since birth. I came out writing movies and stuff, right? So one of the ways that I coped with the unacceptance of everyone else is I was always creating these characters and writing these movies. So I enjoyed being a vampire and things like that because it scared people away from me. I'm okay with them thinking I'm crazy as long as they don't think I'm white. Like, to me, that was less of a punishment than the latter. So I would play these roles and make up these extravagant movies and things, and it literally would have some, like, I was a good actress, so I would have some people in the neighborhoods and things convinced that I was actually a vampire, and they were scared at night, and they would tell their parents, and their parents come back complaining to my mom and stuff, and and so it just made me seem more crazy. But I didn't care at that time because I was honing my gifts, and I knew from at that time what I was going to be when I grow up. So whatever. But one of the things that I did that eventually got me arrested and taken to that place was that I made this whole extravagant plan of how I was going to lock everyone into the cafeteria and catch them all on fire and just watch them burn and all this, really kind of demented stuff. Honestly, I'm being honest with myself. I can kind of chuckle at it now, but at that time it was not good. And so, yeah, it was very much warranted that they arrested me and took me to this place. And I was just relieved to be up out of there, which at the end of the day, would I've actually done that? Probably not. But had I kept suppressing for so long and just let this go on and nobody ever sent me to a place where I could get help, who knows what I would have been capable of. But I enjoyed the process at that time of making this, just letting my intrusive thoughts out on paper and getting it to the point where I scared enough of those white folks that they was like, we're going to tell somebody because she's probably going to do this for real. So that's what got me sent there. And nobody's ever asked that question in an interview before. So it was kind of interesting to reflect back on that.
Yeah. And I'm going to ask, because I'm going to piggyback off Sid. Now that you got there and they took you there, how did they help you figure out some of the things that you were going through? And I know you said writing was a piece of it, helping you with poetry, but what were the other things that they brought to surface that this teenage child is going through, and you have to kind of, if you felt like telling them, like what were some of the things?
That is a really good question. And I'm always answering very honestly, but I have to dig deep to really understand, process, and be able to turn these answers into words sometimes. Because I feel like a lot of the things that they taught me there were not necessarily what they were trying to teach me. And I'll explain what I mean in that. It's because, I did get a lot out of the therapy, and, I took the things that I knew would work for me out of everything they're giving me. Like, okay, well, writing's going to work, journaling, because that's what I already do, certain things. And then even just making friends in there that had, at the time seemed like bigger problems than mine, kind of put things into perspective. And then I think more than anything, going to a place like that taught me who I really was. Not that that's what they were trying to do, because honestly, I learned how to tell people what they needed to hear. I learned how to know who not to trust. Because first of all, I didn't trust none of them white people when I came in there in the first place. So whatever they want me to tell them, or however they want me to open up to them and trust them, it's not going to happen anyway. So in my head, I'm just playing another role by being here in the first place. But then I realized while I was there, how much just getting away from everybody that I didn't like helped me, like just being there in general. And so I there was times when I was going to get released on good behavior. Like that place helped me realize that there was nothing actually wrong with me. Like as far as, severe brain damage or something, the things that you would think like, she's got bipolar disorder, she's got all these different things. That place made me feel so normal because I was able to just be myself and then keep getting to the point where it was like, oh, well, you're fine. The emotions that you're experiencing are perfectly normal given your situation. And, because prior to that, it was like I wasn't allowed to feel anything. If I was sad, if I was emotional or angry at a situation, I was made to feel worse because I'm feeling that emotion. So not only was the skin issue a problem, but then the fact that I had emotions and I didn't know what to do with them, I just was told those were bad. That caused a whole nother insecurity and a whole nother issue within me. So, just being there helped me understand my emotions and be okay with being a human being and understand that, oh, other people have these emotions too. Okay, so this is normal, so that kind of thing. It just gave me more confidence being there. And then it also unintentionally, like I said, they didn't mean to do this, but they actually increased my acting ability and my confidence in my gift and talent in that area too, because it's just in me to do this. As soon as I got to the place, it's like instinctively all these people that I'm meeting are characters in a show for me. And so of course I'm going to put on a play, of course I'm going to write a script and have all these people in this facility acting in my show. Like I literally came into the place, took over and made it what I wanted it to be. Like, and that's when I realized like, I'm capable of doing this. Like, this is a gift. This is what I do. And so I think that was one of the first times that I realized that gift in me. And so, and just the fact that I was inspiring other people who were hurting and ill and whatever they had going on, eating disorders, all kind of stuff going on in there. Like, I was able to give them something to hope for and to dream in and to bigger than themselves, kind of like everything that I'm doing right now is so crazy, just reflecting back on that, because I'm like, dang, like every experience that we go through really creates who we are. And so that just helps to mold that. And so it made me a director, and I was literally directing people and inspiring people, and about didn't want to leave. So like every time I got to the point where they're about to release me for good behavior, like, this girl is awesome, we're just gonna let her go, I would act out, y'all. I would really flip out to where they had to put me in a straitjacket and lock me in a padded room. And I was purposely turning into that character that I needed to be at that time, so they would keep me longer, because I don't want to go home. I like it here. I got my own room. I got, friends. I'm directing. I'm walking in my purpose. I'm doing what is already embedded in me to do, because I'm passionate about that. So
do you think it was a manipulation though?
Yeah, it was, and it's bad because, like, I don't advise manipulation, but I was good at it. I realized I'm so good at this, like, and so I was in there, I beat my head against the padded wall, and I was really entertaining myself though, like, for real. And I knew it was cameras in the room, so I'm like, I'm putting on a whole show, and they just feel like, yeah, this girl, she's losing it, let's go ahead and keep her longer, but I'm like, I would run up against the wall. I figured out how to get out of straitjackets. I figured out how to get out of handcuffs, like all these things I just kind of taught myself as I went, like it was stuff like that I kind of picked up in that place that come in handy these days, but not probably the best way to accumulate these gifts, but it definitely it taught me a lot about myself, is what it did.
Oh, is it on me? So when were you, or when did you actually accept the fact that you were actually ready to go, or allow them to let you leave the facility? And after that, what kind of was the next step? How were you able to, I guess, navigate the world, or, your household or your community or whatever you were struggling with? Were you able to better kind of experience that after your time at the facility?
I don't really remember, as far as the first part of the question, my acceptance of, being ready to go. I don't know that I ever was really ready to go. I think it could be possible that somebody just caught on to the fact that I'm going to keep doing this every time they're about to let me go. So just let her go because she played too much, So, I don't really remember how that happens, because a lot of my memories are bits and pieces, because that's how trauma works. Your brain protects itself sometimes. And so I blacked out a lot of things. So I'm trying to think of the answer to that, but I really don't remember that part. And then as far as coping in the world after that, like I said, that place gave me so much confidence in that I felt like I am in control of my life and those around me. Like, I determine how I allow people to treat me and how things go. Like, I just felt so much more confident in that. And I felt more confident in where I knew I was going, and that this childhood situation, no matter what was going on at the time, is temporary. Like, at some point I'm going to be grown, and I'm going to be this big time movie producer. I'm going to be this big time actor, like all these things that I'm going to do because this is what I do naturally. And this is what I'm passionate about. And it's just built into me. So I just started focusing on that from that point on. And I think that's another reason why there's a lot of bits and pieces missing for me, because I spent so much time in my adolescence thinking about the future and living in the future. Like, I always was meditating to that point in time on my timeline, and I wasn't living in the now to even take it all in. So that's another reason for that too.
I want to ask, because reading a little bit about you, and I actually got to see your play production. It's a mixture of everything: play, production. You get just a bit of everything. You mentioned as a child that you went through human trafficking.
Mm-hmm.
Can you elaborate on that a little bit? Because did that play a part of before going into an institute or after?
After. Yeah,
Okay.
that was after. That was going into adulthood, actually. So it was a very short period of my life. So there's not too much to elaborate on. And a lot of times you'll have to be real specific with the questions. But I know if I give you guys a summary so far, this is how it's worked, is you guys will elaborate a little bit on certain parts. But again, I try to piece it together as best I can, the pieces that I do remember. But in my situation, it was one of those where I was almost an adult, and there was someone who happened to be a neighbor who decided to target me. So I'll just call him a predator for the sake of summing this up. And I became a target, and I did not know or understand at that time, because I was very naive for a 17-year-old. I lived in my own fantasy world. I played with Barbies. I made movies with my Barbies. All I did was make movies all the time. So I was a virgin. I did not, like most teenagers these days, I did not think about sex. I did not want to do that. Why would I ever do that? Like all of those things. And so when this predator started doing what he was doing, which was basically the manipulation, the grooming, and things like that, I didn't understand what was happening at first. I was like, I just know I don't like this guy. He's making me uncomfortable. I want him gone. So that was the extent of our relationship. And so unfortunately, he was able to get away with a lot because he was a master manipulator. Just like being in that facility, I can relate it back to that, because he unintentionally taught me some things that I was able to use for my future self that benefited me, because again, it was the manipulation, the seeing an expert at work. This guy was such a smooth criminal that he had literally no online presence. Who has that in the first place? Everybody can be found online, not this guy. It's like he had, no criminal background. He got people to do things for him. And he was smart enough to know that I cannot rape this girl until she's 18, because if she goes and tells the police when she's 17, they're just going to take her word for it. It's going to be statutory rape, regardless of if she can prove it or not. And so he was very detailed with waiting until I turned 18. So at that time, I was taken from my home and had to stay with him, and had to do things like commit crimes and things like that for him. And then I was trafficked out to his entourage, for lack of a better word right now. And so, so it was a short time in my life. I want to say, I really can't pinpoint the timeline exactly, but I want to say maybe a year. But it felt like a long time as I was going through it. Obviously, anytime you're going through a trauma, especially something like that, it just felt like a long time. So, but yeah, that pretty much sums up that portion of my life. But y'all feel free to elaborate. If there's something else that I can answer, I'd be happy to.
Normally with those situations, it may be a little bit more difficult than others to, make it out, or, it just kind of gets out of control. Some people sold overseas, whatever the case may be. But how were you able, to actually walk away from that or get away from that scenario for yourself?
Right. And I'm glad you mentioned that, actually, because that's one of the reasons it took me so long to accept that as what it is and actually call it human trafficking. Like, that's what it is, only because we have this visual that we think of when we think of human trafficking. We automatically go to people who are sold overseas, people who are kidnapped, they're knocked out, they're drugged, whatever. We go to that severe of a case. We don't realize that it's literally happening in our own neighborhoods, with our kids being groomed, people at community centers and churches and boys and girls clubs and all of these things. Like, it's happening right up under our noses. And so you have to really learn how to define human trafficking. And when I kind of did my research and went through therapy for this part of my life as well, they helped me to just go ahead and call it what it is, because it's it seems like there's levels to trauma, but there's really not, because when you're in it and experiencing it, it's the worst thing that could ever happen because you're experiencing it. But you can easily look at someone else's situation and say, oh, well, they had it worse than me, or theirs was longer than mine, so theirs was, so I try not to do that when it comes to trauma healing. Like, however long yours lasted, to whatever extent it was, whether we're talking about homelessness, human trafficking, or any of the things, it was traumatic, and trauma really has no levels. It is just, it's debilitating and it needs to be healed from at the end of the day. So, I had to really learn how to accept what that part of my life was for me and be able to talk about it for what it is in order for me to start healing from it. Because otherwise I kept downplaying how serious it was. And so, and I say it in my show, you saw that, I felt like in telling that part of my testimony that people would judge me because I was not physically tied up. People that don't understand how mental chains work and how manipulation and grooming works, especially for a young mind that hasn't experienced the world yet. So, so I had to really come to grips with what that was in order to understand and explain it. And so for me to get out, leading to the second part of your question, it was just a matter of developing my own strength and determination, and it took time. So it happened over time. It did not happen overnight. And also it happened with, again, me knowing how to manipulate people, and now me knowing even better because I'm watching a master at work and thinking, wow, he's using the superpower that he has for so much bad. But I have that superpower in me too. So I should be able to hone into this and build it and grow it and be able to use it for good, right? So understanding that and then moving into acting in that's how I started to get out. I literally went to a whole college to get, I went and filled out an application. I talked to teachers on the campus. It's not like I wasn't allowed to leave. I just knew when to leave. So this man was married, and I knew that there was times when he wasn't going to be his real self when someone else was watching. So I knew I got this much time. When she's there, he's not going to say nothing to me. I can go, I can do this, I can do that. And so I was able to move when I could move. Although a lot of times I had to pay for it when it was just him and there was no one around to control that. But I just figured out how to move around this chessboard that was my life, and how to use other people in that situation to help me get me out of it, which was so much harder because at that time I didn't have, we didn't have the cell phones and the I had to get a cell phone. I didn't have social media and ways to really connect with the world and friends or anything like that. So I just had to build to that point of, now I have these teachers and now I have these students at the school, and now I have a reason to have to leave the house, because how is he going to explain to his wife that I got accepted into this college, but I can't go to it? For what reason? It was like me understanding how to navigate that. And then once I was at the college on the campus, then it was a whole nother story. I'm in this world now, but it still was a process because I still had to deal with the threats and I had to deal with the following me to class. I ended up getting kicked out of the college because I started to fear going to class. I just didn't know who to trust, who worked for him, who was I couldn't make a friend because I couldn't trust anybody because he's got people following me and all of these different things. And so having a cell phone at that time, I was getting messages that would say exactly where I was and what I was doing, and all that. Just the intimidation tactics continued to go long into my escape through college, I'll call it. And so, so it took a long time, but again, just building that confidence in myself. I eventually moved to a whole nother state. Once I got kicked out of college, nothing was keeping me there. I moved to a whole nother state where thinking, maybe you can't find me here because this world is so big. And so I just had to continue moving and block every number that came through, continue blocking numbers. And it was just a whole process. But eventually I didn't hear from him anymore. And that took a long time.
Wow. I know we're gonna. Would you come back for part 2? Because I know we're not going to get through this whole thing.
I was just thinking. I was like, how much time do we really got? But yeah,
time. But we'll finish that once we get off. We'll schedule another one because you have a lot to share. I want to ask, going back. You mentioned he had a wife.
Mm-hmm.
You don't suspect that the wife knew anything, that these were his behaviors? Was she condoning to this? How did it get past that she allowed him to move another woman into the house?
Right. That is a great question. And I will say this. I think now that I have been a wife, I think that we all have this instinct in us that we know something ain't right, but we choose to hope and love and wish the best and all of these good things when we have this person that we just are obsessed with. And so I think she was in the same position that a lot of us wives end up in, which is that position. So there was actually a time when I attempted to communicate with her a couple of times in a way that wasn't like I just came and straight up told her, because I knew that was going to cause a whole lot of trouble, more than I wanted to deal with. So what I did was I kept a journal, and I kept account of everything that was happening, everything that he did. I kept a daily transcription so that I could hide it in the house, because even then I knew a woman's going to find certain things in her house because she cleans her house that a man won't come across. So I knew exactly where to hide it, that she would find it and he wouldn't. And so I thought that that would work. I thought that if she reads this, then she'll understand, because I didn't really tell her. I hid it. So it's like she found it on her own, even though it was my intention for her to find it. And so again, the chess pieces there were all happening. And so she found it, and I'm hearing them in the room arguing, and I'm thinking, okay, this is it. She's gonna get me out of this. She's gonna be like, yeah, no, you can't, they're arguing. So this is it. And then somehow, some way, this man just managed to convince her that I don't even remember what the story was that he gave her. I don't know, but he convinced her that I was the liar, that I was just making stuff up, all of these things, because I'm a writer, I'm a director, and so that was his excuse and reason that I was writing those things, and that I had some sick fantasy about him, that, just whatever he told her, it worked. And she remained ignorant. And it just went on after that for a while, because, and when I say went on like that for a while, I mean, like, stayed married, had multiple more kids. And then it wasn't until years later, like, honestly, almost recently, like within the last 5-6 years, I don't know, all my years run together, but not that long ago, that I received a Facebook message, and it was her saying that she realizes all those years ago that I was right, and it was one of those things like, I don't want to hear from you now, because what, but, trying not to let that be a trigger at the time that I got the message, but just looking at her as just another victim in that situation. So that's the way I saw it, and just left it at that and just let it be. So, yeah.
Now, at what point, did you get the big break that you needed, or what was your end, into the career that you have been dreaming your whole life? Like, how did you get into where you wanted to be?
Well, I mean, it ain't over yet, so I haven't got to the end yet. But I'll tell you this, I don't. That is a pretty common question, but I don't think it's answerable. I heard one actor describe it as, when someone asks what's her favorite project, is the one I'm on now. Like, it's always about the right now. Like, I've learned how to live in the present. So I'm not where I'm going to be, but I'm not where I used to be. But, there was never a moment of I've arrived. Like, I've just always been doing this. Even before I did it in front of a camera, I've always been doing this. So I can't really pinpoint a moment that was like, oh, this has happened. It just keeps happening and keeps getting better all the time.
And I want to ask one question. So when we close this out and you come back, we have it. Did anything ever happen to this guy? Did he ever get incarcerated? Did anything ever happen to him?
Not that I know of. I know for a while, especially when I first got on social media and things like that, I did keep an eye on things just to make sure. But it was hard to do with someone who has no online presence because he's criminal. But there is always, mug shots that can be found and things like that. And then as well as the fact that he was still married. So that was how I was able to know that he was still married, to know that he had all these kids and all these different things, because I kept tabs on his wife. And then also eventually one of his children reached out to me, who apparently remembered me. So, so that's how I was able to kind of at least pinpoint what state they were in, to steer clear of that area. But other than that, like, I never pursued, because I wasn't able to speak on it at that time. I wasn't able to even explain it really. Like, I'm learning how to do that now still through my writings and movies and everything else. But how do I even explain this enough to a police officer to make them do something about it? And plus I had multiple experiences where I did try to tell a police officer thinking that they could help, and they did not. And they actually made it worse for me. So I learned the hard way not to trust them or depend on them for anything. And if there's a problem, I'm going to handle it myself, or just to walk away and let God handle it. And so that's kind of what I did with this. So there was so many times that I checked to see maybe they're going to post his funeral pictures and I'll know that he's gone from this earth and I don't have to worry about anything anymore. But I never got that moment. So I have no idea what's happening to him now, but I do have this faith walk that I'm on. So I can say that I am so sure that God's got my back and he be looking out for me, and I am his child, one of his golden children, okay, on this planet. And so I kind of got an idea that whatever he's going through in life, he's not comfortable. I'm gonna say that because I have sat back and watched God take people through some things who have done me wrong. So I just rest in that peace in knowing, and that's about all I got right there is that reassurance, knowing who my daddy is, and and that's it. So yeah. No full closure, like proof of closure in that aspect, but definitely I know in my heart that he ain't happy.
Now, what I know, you said, you're not nowhere near where, the heights, you haven't reached the heights that you plan to reach. Everything's still in motion. But I guess up until now, what would be some of your favorite accolades or favorite things that you've worked on, or most significant things that you've worked on?
I don't know. It goes back to that same answer. The first thing that comes to my mind is like the one that I'm working on now. And that is the 9 Lives World Tour. This right here, this is a one-woman show where I play 9 different characters. This is the most amazing thing I've ever done. This was definitely a God thing, because I was like, I do not want to do this. When he put it on my heart to do it in the first place, I did not want to do it because it just felt too big for me. It definitely felt like this is way bigger than me. Like I could see the future of where this thing is going. And it's not even where it's going to be. But as y'all know, we're on a 9-city tour. We're on stop 7 right now of 9 cities. And so it's going very well and it's impacting so many people. It's all about the impact for me. Like, when you ask questions like that, I'm not thinking about the project that I got paid the most in, or the project that I worked with the biggest celebrities or the most household names. Or it's never, my mind never goes to that. It goes to which project had the most impact and left the most lasting impression. And this show right here is helping people to heal from trauma, overcome depression, prevent suicide, domestic violence, like all of the things that are happening right now, to put an end to that as best we can for at least however many people we can touch. That is the biggest project you could ever have asked me to do. And I'm so grateful to be doing it. God is doing it, because I don't even feel capable of doing it, honestly. Like I just keep showing up and it keeps happening the way it's supposed to happen. So that would be the answer to that, is 9 Lives, the 9 Lives World Tour.
Okay. And I want to play a little testimony snippet of that from a video you shared. And then we're going to kick into closing it out because we're almost at time.
I see her perform and do a lot of great performances. She's a phenomenal actress, but this was just next level.
Now, the movie is pretty intense. It affects you in a deeper emotional level than most other movies do, because each character tells their story.
You've got to go see 9 Lives, baby.
Whoa, 9 Lives, off the chain. So next level, so next level.
All the characters were amazing.
My favorite part of it, though, was when she did the poetry. How she did a poetry, how she puts her heart out there, man, and how she really, you can tell that she really loves people.
Please support this movement.
Oh, you're gonna touch so many lives. You touched me, girl. Oh, I don't have any words to say. All I need y'all to do is check out 9 Lives by Vitelle, girl.
It is amazing. She is phenomenal. She's very talented. You want to get in on her next show.
It's totally worth your while. It's on Zoom, and it's definitely worth the price of admission.
The word has to go forth. This production has to get out to encourage others and to help them get their deliverance from what they've gone through.
Somebody needs to award this girl with an Oscar.
I love that. I haven't seen that in a while. It's still always fresh to me. It encouraged me so much. And that was actually testimonials from when I was doing it virtually. So, if they was impacted with it being virtual at that time, the testimonials from the people who've seen it in person is even beyond that. It's amazing.
Yeah. And we wanted to share the testimonies.
Thank you.
Because you're doing amazing. You're doing an amazing job. So we are almost at time. And when we close it out, we just like to ask from the two things that we talked about today, because we didn't even get half, because you got if you could tell the audience, especially biracial female girls that are going through bullying and females that may be going through human trafficking that may see this, or to prevent another young lady from going through human trafficking, what advice would you give them?
Man, that was a whole lot of question and would be a whole lot of answer, but I'm gonna figure out how to sum this up to something that I would say to every single one of those people, because at the end of the day, it's all traumatic experiences. It's all something that you are experiencing, because life be lifing. You're experiencing this moment. Just keep in mind that it is only a moment. Whatever it is that you're going through, you are not alone. There are 8 billion people on this planet right now, 8.2, I think, right now. And that's only the people in existence at this moment in time. Think about how many people are born all the time and how many people leave this earth all the time. There have been countless number of people in existence that have experienced the feelings that you're feeling, the things that you're going through. It may not be exactly the same situation, but you'd be surprised how many people can relate so closely to your situation. So just knowing that you're not alone, and even that, if nobody else on the planet out of the billions of people who have existed can relate, God is there with you. He understands what you're going through. He has experienced himself in the flesh as Jesus Christ, so many of these emotions that we experience now. So just allow yourself to be human, allow yourself to express the emotions in the healthiest way that you can, and be okay. Like, let yourself be okay. Have grace on yourself that you're feeling these things right now because of what you're going through. And that is okay. You have the right to feel this. If you need to cry, if you want to write, if you want to go to the gym and work it out, whatever you can find a healthy outlet for the emotions that you're experiencing because of your situation, whatever that is. And then also understand that at the end of the day, it is not going to last forever. Just like my childhood did not last forever. Childhood does not last long. In fact, so many of us get grown and be like, dang, I wish I was a kid again. I didn't have bills. That's just proof that things do not last forever. None of these storms last forever. So just always know that whatever your situation is, you are eventually going to get through it. Just try your best to stay positive. I know sometimes it is difficult, but you are not alone, and God is right there with you. All you got to do is open your mouth and say, hey, God, I need you over here, and he will work it all out eventually. All right. So that's my advice for all of y'all.
And as we do with everyone, although you've been, putting in your one-woman play throughout the entirety of our show, we do want to give you the chance to let our viewers know about any other projects or anything else you would like to draw traffic to, anything that you're advocating for, just anything you want to bring shine to, or how our viewers can contact you, utilize your services, frequent your events, anything. You have the floor.
Sure, no problem. So as y'all know, the 9 Lives, One Woman Tour is taking place right now. We're on the last 3 stops on this tour. So make sure you get tickets if you are in Nashville, Tennessee, if you're in Boston, Massachusetts, or Bowling Green, Kentucky. Those are the last cities left on this tour stop. But most importantly, even if you can't make it to one of those cities, make sure you connect with us so that you know what our next show is and when and where it will be dropping, so you can get those tickets and hopefully come see us in person. But I do want to mention, I haven't mentioned this, I don't think, today, but this show is actually based on the book I Am a Poetic Ensemble. So I want you guys to get a copy of that as well. This book right here it's a book of poetry, but it's also a memoir and story of my life. Like they said, we just touched on 2 topics today. This right here is like a summary and overview of all of the things that are going to come. If you read this book, you're going to see what the next 50 years are going to look like for me, because every single one of the poems in this book is a whole movie in itself. It's a whole separate book in itself. This is the sampler platter of everything that is coming from Us Three Productions and Vitelle. So I want you guys to get a copy of this, the original first book of my journey, my story, and this movement. I want you guys to join the movement. Definitely make sure you go to vitelle.net. That's VITELLE.net. There you can find links to all of my social media platforms. Follow me on whatever you got. And also, last but not least, if you want to really stay in the loop with what's going on, go ahead and shoot me a text at 770-626-5075. Once you subscribe to that list, you will get direct contact with me with all the things that's going on. You got casting calls, discounts. I give special promo codes to my text subscribers. So subscribe via text and via email on the website, and make sure you stay connected with me. There's some big things coming.
Vitelle, we want to thank you so much. And when we finish, if you can please hold a second. So you have it. If you are going through, for any of our females out here that are going through bullying, biracial, as I mentioned, human trafficking, even navigating, really getting help, because Vitelle was very open about manipulation and everything. So I hope you paid a lot of attention, and she is on a healing journey, and hopefully her testimony will help you see that you need to start that healing journey. She has given you a lot of resources and things that could help you through this journey. So we want to thank you, Vitelle.
Thank you so much for having me. This has been amazing. Y'all were very thorough with the questions. We dove deep. I done did hundreds of thousands of interviews. I don't know how many interviews, but I don't feel like I've ever answered half these questions that y'all asked me today. So mad props to you. Claps for you. Thank you, guys.
Woo! And see, that's what we love right there. That's what we love.
On it. Y'all challenged me today. Y'all challenged me.
That's good. And we're going to challenge you when you come back to part 2. Yes. So we want to thank you for tuning into Unfiltered Unspoken podcast, where we're going to continue to share life experiences. Ain't that right, Sid?
That's right.
That's right. Y'all have a blessed day. Peace.